But one of the reasons I want to have you on is that like we talk a lot about show business and the things we do, and you've had one of the most successful podcasts for the last several years, I believe since 2014, right?
Yeah, we started, I think, in 2014. Yeah, and yeah, it did well early. Yeah.
And what was it like when you did you reach a tipping point where you had to build a team to help you? Are you guys still kind of like kind of self-sufficient? Do you have editors? Like how do you put it all together?
We're pretty self-sufficient. I mean, Dave handles a lot of the, you know, logistical stuff, but it is at the point now where, you know, we don't book our travel, or we don't really book our shows anymore. I mean, all that's done, but for the most part, I mean, we don't really do too much. I think we're going to probably get a social media person soon. But we really don't do much. I mean, that's why, like, when people ask me, you know, what did you do? Like, there wasn't even too much necessarily that was done. I mean, immediately, like, Dave was setting up social media accounts, but he was kind of responding to the fact that people liked it. So it was easy to know to do that, you know?
Yeah, when you have that momentum, it's easy to just tack on an extra thing like, oh, this we should have an account here, we should have an account there.
Yeah.
And also
Yeah.
timing, like it sounds like I mean 2014 was still fairly early in the podcast game relative to where it is now.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you know, it grows every year, obviously. So, you know, they were a thing. I mean, I'd been doing another podcast for probably maybe 2-ish years or so when I met Dave, and when we started doing the Dollop, I'd met him before that. But yeah, I mean, you know, there were big shows out there already, but it definitely felt like around the time when you were kind of going, okay, there is definitely something here. You know, it's like when you join a social media thing, you're like, okay, this is legit. Like it definitely had started to feel like podcasts had become their own thing, and we're just growing and growing, and you know, continue to for so many reasons.
Yeah, and it's become like one of the key like slashes or business models that helps you in all the other arts because it helps your touring, it helps your fan base, it helps your income. Like it's such a if it's done right, it's such a powerful force that can really help you grow in other areas.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like my stand up had gone, you know, I'd been doing stand up for longer than I've been doing podcasts, and I would watch people who would get credits and then would get better spots, and you know, or even start headlining or whatever it was, and I was always kind of like, ah, god damn it, you know, it should be based on your ability, it should be based, and then when the Dollop happened, it helped my stand up tremendously, and I was like, well, I'll take it, I will take it, I will. This is based on nothing more than the podcast, but it does. I mean, it is, you know, I mean, there are so many benefits to it, but among them, yeah, exactly, is that it is just if you have that audience, you know, you're connecting your audience to other things you're doing if they're interested, and if they are, it's just, you know, one hand washes the other, really.
Yeah, because you become the draw. And once you're a draw, then irrespect like you have to be funny, but if you're funny and you have a draw, you're like, let's go. Like people want you on their shows because it is a business. Like we got to put butts in seats. You got to draw people to come see you. So when you're both, it's just like a killer combo.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's obviously up to it is an opinion based business in many ways,
True.
but yeah, that does matter. And you know, like I said, I mean, I definitely for years really was saying to people who, you know, my managers at the time, going like, hey, you know, I have like 30 minutes and it's really good, and you know, what should I do? And they would just, there was really nothing, there was no advice. I mean, the advice was basically, and I'm not even saying it's wrong advice, but the advice was basically just keep going and hang in there, you know?
Yeah.
And
Right.
I was sort of, I hated the advice because I was like, well, shit, I mean, do something. But at the end of the day, while I would have loved the leg up, it did kind of organically happen by getting the Dollop, and yeah, and then just being able to capitalize on that with stand up at the same time in conjunction with it, you know?
Yeah, do something is the new waiting. Like you used to have to wait for like a door to open or like let's try again in a few months. And then it became what are you doing or what have you been doing in those few months to get yourself an audience, to get yourself the thing you want.
Oh yeah. When I first moved to LA, I mean, I remember, you know, trying to chip away at the business with sketch shows. and, you know, performing just in venues. And it wasn't until a friend of mine and I had made a video that, you know, got lots of views that we were like, oh shit, and started to go, okay, this is the impact. You know, like it's like if you bomb a show, you go, you beat yourself up. But you put a video online and it does well, and you're not like, that's amazing. You know, you're like, oh, that did pretty well. But you know, it's the difference between 100,000 people to 300 people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that recognizing that now, yes, it is much more of a self-starting business. You break yourself. I mean, you see it over and over and over again. It's kind of the same mentality. It's just a totally different way of doing it and getting your name out there.
Yeah, because it becomes its own currency. Like your view count becomes a currency. For better or worse, your follower count becomes a currency. And it's like it's
Yeah.
the first thing people can see if they haven't seen you as an artist. They can be like, all right, well, there's something here.